All right, well, your Seattle Seahawks fall to the Las Vegas Raiders 40-34 in a very disappointing game, a game that you had every bit it in your hands and the opportunity to go out there and take this game away from the Raiders. You had an opportunity even early on in this game to come out and put your foot on their throat, stamp them out, put them away early, don't even give them a chance, don't even let them feel like they got signs of life, as Quandre Diggs literally got an interception on the very first offensive play of the game for the Raiders. But that was not the way that this game played out. Defensively speaking, all game long, you were struggling to find your way. It wasn't completely that you were empty. There weren't some good plays out there. Of course, Quandre Diggs had a couple of interceptions, but even for the good Quandre gave you in the 2 interceptions, he also gave a touchdown on a wheel route to a running back. And then there were also other times where he struggled to tackle. And Quandre wasn't the big problem in this game. It was a variety of different defenders across the board. Your defensive linemen were getting blown out of their gaps. Nobody was keeping their discipline or their integrity in that respect of things. Barton and Brooks had another day where they struggled across the board for the most part. Again, there's some plays where they will show you here they'll play like Barton where he'll knock a play away in pass coverage, and that's a great play on his part. But we can't get fixated on that one play when there's all these other plays where he's struggling again, continuing to struggle in the run game, can't get off blocks, can't seem to make tackles consistently. As another part of this defense that you saw throughout the course of this year that you saw on bright display once again today was the missed tackles. The inability to get guys down, drug down in space, even in those situations you would think would be relatively simple tackles. It's just even the most simplest, I got you dead to rights here, you're not even moving yet, I can't, but I just slide right off of you like you've been greased up like some pig or something a little bit. It was very strange. And you allowed really the Raiders to come into this game and go, okay, we have two offensive components here that can really attack you. We've got Devontae Adams and we've got Josh Jacobs. That's all we got. We're down Darren Waller. We're down Hunter Renfrow. That's all we got. And so the Seahawks, from a defensive standpoint, could have come into this game and said, let's not let these two guys, let's take away these two guys. Let's make somebody else on the Raiders offense beat you. And you didn't do that. You look at Josh Jacobs, 33 carries for 229 yards, nearly a 7-yard average. But he wasn't done there because he also had 6 carries for 74 yards, 6 catches for 74 yards on the other side of it. And then right behind him was Devontae Adams with 7 catches for 74 yards. You didn't take those two guys away. They were the only things defensively that could hurt you. It's odd to me that they didn't have more of a game plan defensively to find a way to maybe hem those guys up. Maybe it was simply players just not doing their job, just getting blown out of the gaps on the defensive line, and then your linebackers not coming up to make a play and tackle. But indeed, this is a game that looked like a lot of the early games this year. Your Seahawks team started out through, I think, the first 4 or 5 games where there was at times it didn't look like you could stop anybody offensively with the exception of the Denver Broncos. You looked like the worst defense in the entire sport. Then you had a 4-game run where you were the best defense from a DVOA standpoint in the entire NFL. You went from worst, from 0 to hero. And now we've gone back to 0. We're back to now playing it back at that back end level of things, at least off of this kind of game. And it's really inexplicable. I would be expecting this defense to be coming together at this time. I'd be expecting them to be playing at their highest and greatest strength at this moment. We don't have a ton of injuries. Yes, you are down Jamal Adams, but that's your only real major injury on the defensive side of the ball. You're able to run everything out at full health, and you're just not getting it done anywhere around. It's nice to see Diggs get a couple of the interceptions, but you almost gave up 300 yards to Derek Carr on the other side of it. So they run for almost 300 yards on one side of it, and then you have Derek Carr throw for 300 yards. Wouldn't it be better defensively to try to find something you can take away from an offense? And maybe it's just not capable of this defense. Maybe they just don't have quite the talented enough personnel to do so. It certainly is eye-opening when you only have 2 offensive players that can really beat you, and then you let them beat you. But it sure seemed like the defensive coaches didn't have the players set up in a situation here to really succeed in this game because you didn't try to take away those guys on the offensive side of the ball. To give up 33 carries, though, 230 yards, Coach Carroll wants his defenses to start with stopping the run first and foremost. It doesn't matter the team. And to see his teams this year give up so many yards on the ground so often is just a head scratcher. We signed guys like Poona Ford and Brian Monet and Al Woods. You brought those guys back almost specifically for what they do bring theoretically in the running game. Yet they're not stopping the run very well. Al Woods showed up early on in this game and then disappeared as the game went on. I didn't see much from Poona Ford outside of the sack that he brought. And Quentin Jefferson remains one of those real big negative points for you on your defensive line. Teams go after him. You also saw defensively in this football game, Jordan Brooks continued to get beat like a drum in pass coverage. This has been an issue with Jordan Brooks going back to college. On the draft night, on the very draft night Jordan Brooks was taken in the first round, I didn't like the pick. It wasn't because Jordan Brooks wasn't bringing something to the table. He was. He is rangy. He is fast. He can hit. He can tackle. He's very good in the run game. But the place that shows up that's very much a struggle is his struggles in zone, where he just doesn't have the recognition to where the guys are at in zone. His drops aren't the best. He's just not able to make a play in coverage back there. They told us at the time he was drafted, when he had 75 snaps in coverage in his last year in college and he didn't make one play on the ball, they told us, did Schneider, well, you had to look at his previous year to see what he was doing. Or it was because he was spying a quarterback. Yeah, that's the reason he's bad in coverage. No, it's just quite simply Jordan Brooks isn't very good in coverage, and it's not getting any better anytime soon. It's a bit of what you have to take with his game, but today he really got picked on by the Raiders. They really attacked him and said, we know we can go after him in the passing game, and that did show up. That was very helpful for them. Another big part of this game was the lack of an inability to stop the Raiders when it came to third downs in this game. 8 of 14 on third down conversions in this game. That's up against the Seahawks, who were 3 of 9. You let them get into third and shorts with the running game. You get a team into third and shorts, then you're going to get them into a position that's going to be easier for them to then convert those third downs, because it's not third and long, it's not third and 10, it's third and 3, third and 4, third and 2. And indeed, the Raiders were able to take advantage of that dinking and dunking. It seemed a little bit like the defense was really kind of almost obsessed with sort of just taking away the deep play in this game, of leaving those shorter routes opened up for the Raiders offense to take advantage of and keeping the zones kind of loose, which again has gone in deference to where they've had some of their defensive success this year. For instance, the 2 Cardinal games, where you have a Cardinal team that wants to dink and dunk and just try to, and you squeezed those routes on that team. You didn't do the same thing here on the defensive side of the ball. So I won't belabor the point. We can all see the problems here. Nothing went really well for you defensively speaking. They gave the offense a chance at the end of the game with that stop on the third down to force the field goal attempt by the Raiders. But then when the offense couldn't answer the bell, they were shot. They were done. On that run, I think that's you having 32 carries of Jacobs prior to that carry, and you're just wore down at that point. You're deep into overtime. You've had a couple possessions in overtime. It's maybe understandable the defense would wear out at that point. It's more about earlier on in the game where you were failing more than it is about that final failure, which is just where the dam finally breaks. You've been having holes cracking out at every place, and then it just finally gives way. It's all the stuff that kind of happens prior to it that you really should concentrate on more than that big run. Offensively speaking, I think we've got to give Geno Smith another tip of the cap in this football game. Early on, it didn't start the greatest for him. He had a couple of throws that could have been picked off in the back of the end zone. He had another interception. He had the one interception in this game that happened on a crossing route where I believe Tyler Lockett and DK kind of had a collision, which stopped the momentum and made the play look a little funky. But I don't know that that's something that's a horrible decision by Geno's part. He's anticipating Tyler getting through there on that route. It's just kind of bad luck on his part of it. Outside of those 3 throws I just mentioned, though, he was on it, as he has been on it all year long. I think there was a little bit more pressure on him in this game with those edges from both with Max Crosby and Chandler Jones and what they were bringing from the outside in. But Geno, in his decision-making, continues to be right where you want him to be. He was 27 of 37 with 328 yards, 9 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception for 106.6 quarterback rating. Let's consider as well, he's doing this. He's accomplishing this while he doesn't have a running game. It's one thing for Derek Carr to be able to throw for 25 or 36 for almost 300 yards when he's got Jacobs running for 200 plus on the day. It's quite another when you have a quarterback like Geno who has no running game. The defense is aware you have no running game, and now you still have to throw and you still find success throwing that football. So I'm going to give a big props here out to Geno Smith in this game. One more reason why I sit very firmly on the stance of saying we should re-sign this guy. He should be a priority to bring him back at this point. He has done enough at this point to prove he should be your franchise quarterback. Scoring 34 points in this game should be enough to beat a Raiders team coming into this game that's got 3 wins on the season. It's absurd that you're not able to do that or accomplish that. So Geno did everything you could ask for him to do from that standpoint of things. I thought he played a marvelous football game. He had some frozen ropes that were just right on it. I mean, some real tight window throws like we've seen him throw this year, where not only are you seeing the accuracy, but you're seeing some of that real strength that he has in his arm, where he can throw with some plus power. If he was a pitcher, he'd have plus stuff as far as his fastball is concerned. And he showed you that today. A wonderful played game here, I thought, by Geno Smith in this game. Not everything was set up for him to succeed in this particular football game, but he still, for the most part, in my opinion, found a way. Also going to give DK Metcalf props in this game. 11 catches, 90 yards, only an 8.2 yard per carry average on a catch, but he was solid, I thought, throughout this game. Getting open, making the catches when they were there to be made. There's the one play that got overturned at the end, which I really don't put that on him. I thought it was a catch. They overturned it. They determined it was conclusive. That was your game kind of right there, that overturning of that play a little bit. I'm not blaming it on the officials, but that was your kind of last final sort of swing. But nice job by DK and being steady in here with 11 catches, 90 yards. Tyler right there with him in this game, 3 catches, 68 yards. So he was another steadying force within this football game and what he was providing. Also got to give some props to the special teams unit. We had Jason Myers make both of his 2 kicks in this game. Michael Dixon, I believe, averaged over 50 yards a punt in this game. Dixon really gave you a chance in this game as well. Right at the end of regulation, he kicked a punt that sent their returner back so far that he fumbled the ball and then took the Raiders out of even trying to get up the field at the end of the game. That could have been a huge play in this game if the Seahawks had come back around and won it. But again, the special teams unit showed you in this game why they are one of the better units in all of football and why they will tend to help you win football games if your defense can just play with a little bit of productivity on their side of it. Hold the offense down just a tiny bit. And when you're giving up 40 points over the course of the game, you are not holding the opponent, the opposition down in any way, shape, or form. They had some stops today, but it was pretty miserable all the way around and pretty tough to watch. And again, understanding you have a team here in this Raider team that's coming into this game shorthanded. It has been very discouraging to watch this team at times this year go up against teams like the Detroit Lions, who come into that game down their starting running back, their best wide receiver, maybe their second best wide receiver, and you still see their offense moving up the ball on you all day long. We saw it with the Saints as well, with the red rifle going right up the football field on you as well. You are not getting these teams that are filled out at the best as far as their talent is concerned, and they are ripping through your defense right now. So if there's any question about anybody in their mind about whether or not we're going to need to attack the defensive side of the ball in this next upcoming draft and continue to add more pieces to that side of the ball, I think we're getting more people probably firmly in that camp. A tough loss today for your Seattle Seahawks. No two ways about it. A disappointment, a gut shot. A game that you absolutely should win. You are at home. You have that home crowd. You're coming off the bye week, rested. You're relatively injury-free. There's not a lot of valid excuses that you can apply to this game as with you walking away with the loss as you did. This is not a very good Raiders team. This is not a Raiders team that's going to make the playoffs. But it's a Raiders team that you lost to, that you just could not stop offensively in almost any way, shape, or form. Hopefully our Seahawks can bounce back next week. But boy, this was a tough one to take right up on the chin.